The letter that reached him in Liverpool contained only 9 words. The Fenwick Company is selling the Lighthouse. Come home. He had not set foot on Blackwater Point in 14 years. Not since the night the beacon failed and his father's rescue boat went down in a storm the harbor master had sworn, at the inquiry, could not possibly have been predicted. He had been 17 then, too young and too poor to challenge a shipping company's version of events, and he had watched, powerless, as the official report declared his father's death a tragic accident caused by nothing more than bad weather and worse luck. He was 31 now, a maritime solicitor with a reputation for dismantling insurance fraud, and he had spent 14 years waiting for exactly the kind of opportunity this letter represented. The Fenwick Shipping Company was liquidating its coastal assets, including the lighthouse his father had kept faithfully for 20 years, and liquidation meant audits. Audits meant records. And records, if a man knew precisely where to look, sometimes told a very different story than the one written for public consumption. He did not return to Blackwater Point as himself. He arrived as Mr. Julian Cross, engaged by the liquidators to review the company's maritime safety compliance before the sale proceeded, and no one on that gray, wind-scoured coast recognized in his careful new manner the barefoot boy who had once climbed the lighthouse stairs 2 at a time to bring his father tea. The Fenwick family still ran what remained of the company from a narrow office above the harbor, and it was there he met Rosalind Fenwick, the founder's granddaughter, a woman who had inherited the company's collapsing fortunes along with a reputation for asking questions her family found deeply inconvenient. "You'll forgive me if I don't trust auditors," she said, sliding a stack of ledgers across her desk without ceremony. "The last one my grandfather hired disappeared before finishing his report. We were told he simply abandoned the position. I have never entirely believed that. What do you believe happened to him?" "I believe," she said carefully, "that this company has secrets old enough to have killed for, and that my grandfather has spent 30 years making sure those secrets stayed buried under storms and shipwrecks no one thought to question too closely." She studied him with sudden sharpness. "Why does that not seem to surprise you, Mr. Cross?" He gave her nothing, though something in her bluntness unsettled the careful composure he had built over 14 years of practice. He had expected resistance from this family. He had not expected an ally already standing inside their walls. The lighthouse itself, when he finally climbed it again, nearly broke the composure he had trained so carefully. The lamp room smelled the same. The iron rail beneath his palm was worn smooth in exactly the places his father's hands had worn it. He forced himself to focus on the maintenance logs stored in the keeper's quarters below, logs that, according to company record, showed the beacon's mechanism had been fully inspected and certified sound only 3 weeks before the storm that killed his father. The logs he found did not match the ones referenced in the official inquiry. The inquiry had cited an inspection performed by a company engineer named Aldous Pratt. The logbook in his hands, in a different, hurried handwriting, showed no inspection had taken place that month at all. Only a terse note, dated the week before the storm, stating that the lamp's rotating mechanism required replacement parts that had been requested but never delivered. He had heard those words before. Requested but never delivered. They followed him down the lighthouse stairs like something alive. He brought the discrepancy to Rosalind that evening, watching her face carefully as she read it. "Aldous Pratt," she said slowly. "I know that name. He still lives in the village. My grandfather pensioned him generously after your father's death, more generously than any other retired employee in the company's history. A pension can be gratitude," he said, "or it can be silence, purchased in advance." They found Pratt in a small cottage on the harbor's edge, an old man now, his hands shaking as he poured tea he did not drink. He denied nothing when the falsified inspection record was placed before him, though his denial was replaced, slowly, by something closer to relief than guilt. I never inspected that lamp, Pratt admitted. I was told to sign the certificate regardless. Told the parts had been ordered and would arrive before any real danger arose. I believed it, God forgive me, because I wanted to believe it. When the storm came early, before the parts ever did, I understood exactly what my signature had cost, and I have never once stopped understanding it. Who told you to sign it? Pratt's eyes moved, involuntarily, toward the harbor, toward the narrow office above it where the Fenwick Company still conducted its business. Your father discovered the mechanism was failing nearly a month before the storm. He wrote to the company directly, demanding repairs before the winter storms arrived. I was told, by Fenwick himself, that repairing it before the season's shipping contracts concluded would cost the company more than the delay was worth. I was told the risk was acceptable. I was not told it would cost a man his life until it already had. Rosalind's grandfather, not an accident of weather, but a calculated decision that a keeper's safety was worth less than a season's profit. He confronted old Josiah Fenwick the following morning, in the same narrow office where Rosalind had first slid the ledgers across her desk and watched a proud, diminished man finally run out of the lies that had sustained him for 14 years. Your father complained constantly, Fenwick said, with the bitter, unrepentant honesty of a man who had never once believed himself truly guilty of anything. Keepers always complain. I cannot shut down every station every time an old lamp needed adjustment. The parts were ordered. I did not command the storm to arrive early. You commanded the delay, he said. The storm only finished what your ledger began. Rosalind, standing beside her grandfather's desk, looked at the old man as though seeing him clearly for the very first time in her life. You let a man die to save a shipping season, she said quietly, and then pensioned the witness generously enough to guarantee his silence. That is not misfortune, grandfather. That is a choice you made and have spent 14 years refusing to name. The confrontation did not end in a courtroom. Fenwick was too old, the company too near collapse already, and the evidence, though damning, offered little practical satisfaction beyond the truth itself. But Rosalind, appalled by what her family's silence had cost, insisted the full record be entered into the liquidation proceedings, ensuring the false inquiry of 14 years ago would finally, publicly, be corrected, and that whatever remained of the Fenwick fortune would include a proper, permanent pension paid not to the man who had kept the secret, but to the family whose silence had never been purchased at all. There was no family left to pay but him. He stood alone at the Lighthouse's base on the morning the new plaque was fixed beside its door, reading his father's name finally restored to its rightful account of events, keeper of Blackwater Point for 20 years. He warned them, and was not believed in time. Rosalind found him there, the wind pulling at her coat, and said nothing for a long while, simply standing beside him the way people stand beside a grave they have finally been permitted to visit honestly. I always wondered, she said eventually, why an auditor cared so deeply about one old keeper's death among 100 maritime accidents. I think you knew before I told you, he said. I think I did, she admitted. I think I chose not to ask because some part of me already understood what the answer would cost my family, and I was not yet brave enough to want it. He looked up at the lamp room above them, dark now, awaiting new keepers who would never know the storm that had once taken everything from a boy who climbed those stairs each evening simply to bring his father tea. I did not come back to punish your family, he said finally. I came back because a light that fails should never be allowed to fail quietly. My father understood that better than anyone. I only wanted the record to finally understand it too. The lighthouse was relit within the month, its mechanism fully replaced, its logs kept afterward with a precision that bordered on reverence. He did not stay to keep it himself. But he returned each winter, when the storms came in hard off the water, simply to stand at its base and watch the beams sweep steadily across the dark, doing at last, faithfully, exactly what it had always been built to do.